Hi, this is Joe again with another review. For the sake of this video, we'll be discussing. Previously, I discussed. Uh, I did several videos with Star Trek, theme from the movies to the original television show. So I figured that this year, this is 2017. This is the 30th anniversary of the first spin-off of Star Trek, and of course the Star Trek: The Next Generation, and that's the premise of this video. It's my review of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which came on September 1987 and pretty much became an instant hit, which is kind of surprising because I didn't expect I didn't believe highly in the series, simply because of the fact that, pretty much because of the fact that, hey, you're not going to have Captain Kirk in this thing, on the original crew, because this show came about because people want to have like another Star Trek series, and when the original show became when the original show became a big hit in syndication, Paramount during like the mid to late 70s wanted to either have a spin-off called Star Trek Phase 2, or even the possibility of having their own network, which didn't take place till 1995 with the UPN network. So then they decided to scrap that idea and make a motion picture, and of course the motion picture franchise started. So they pushed these spin-off idea back, and of course when they're making a boatload of money for the movies, because the fourth movie just came out and it made such a huge popular thing, and Star Trek hasn't been more popular than that at that point. So are the movies. So they decided to make a television show spin-off, and they call it Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now, of course, the generations usually like every 20 years. So they could have had some connection with the original series with this one. But they didn't do that because they put like 75 years into the future after the events of Star Trek 6. It's like 75 years after that. And they had Patrick Stewart, who was a great veteran actor who was on a Shakespearean stage for years. Got cast as Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah, notice how smart they were. They hired a British actor to play a French character. Brilliant, guys, brilliant. And of course you had Jonathan Frakes play Commander Riker's number one. And also you had 3 prominent women on this series. Which in the original series is only one. I mean, they had women on the other original series as well, of course. But you gave credit to 3 women. Fortunately, of course, the next generation was made today, so where are the black women on this show? Because all the 3 women were white. You had Casa Troy by Marina Sirtis, played telepathic therapist. They put a therapist in this thing. She was a hottie, yes, but they put a super therapist on this show. Gates McFadden played the doctor. They played a woman doctor. And of course you had Denise Crosby, who played the security chief. And I want to get to her character in a minute. And of course you had Michael Dorn, who played Worf, who was a Klingon commander. And of course, obviously at that time they had a peace contract with the Klingons already. So he was a doctor. He also had a kid, Will Wheaton, as Beverly Crusher's son, who was kind of a real geek. I'm glad that they eventually wrote his character off because it was horrible. An annoying, whiny character. You had the one normal actor from the United States, LeVar Burton, of course, was famous for being in that time he was doing Reading Rainbow already on PBS. But he was also famous for being in Roots. Playing Kuna Kinting in Roots. So he was pretty much well known, but unfortunately, the other actors were not so well known. So maybe Will Wheaton was because he was in the movie Stand By Me. So the movie was very successful, and the very first problem that I have with the series now is when you see the episodes run now, is they chopped up the first episode. The first episode was called Encounter at Fall Point and was a 2-hour show. Nowadays, they chopped it off to a 2-part show and they call it Episode 1 and Episode 2, which is bullshit because Episode 1 was a 2-hour show. Of course, they don't show the whole 2 hours of one shot anymore, so they chop it off into 2 parts and they call it Episode 1 and Episode 2, which is crap. I don't know why they do it that way, but the original episode and the very last episode, which aired in May 1994, was also a 2-part, which was All Good Things. I said All Good Things Come to an End. Both shows were 2-hour shows. And when it's in reruns, they chop it off into even when in 1999, 5 years later, Channel 11, which here in New York, WPAX Channel 11 used to air this show. They aired a marathon of Next Generation in 1999, and they haven't done one since. It's been almost 20 years without a marathon on for the 4th of July. Anyway, they chopped that episode into 2 parts, and they chopped the original episode and the final one into 2 separate parts, instead of playing it straight as it originally aired on television. Of course, they got huge ratings, and the whole series had a good following, and what made the Next Generation show different. And the next series was Deep Space Nine, which I may review sometime down the line. They were syndicated. Because they didn't have the shooting schedule. I mean, they didn't have a tough shooting schedule, but it wasn't as intense as it would be for a network series. And Gene Roddenberry did it that way because of what he went through in the original series. So he says, I'm not going to put myself through that or my family through that again. So it was a syndicated series, WPAX here in New York, and of course various stations across the country, of course. And during the first season, you had Denise Crosby, who was actually the granddaughter of Bing Crosby. She decided she had enough of the series. She got into a conflict because she's always saying heading frequencies open, and finally she got into a feud with Callum because she's the security chief on the show. She got killed off about 3/4 of the way through the first season. She decided to leave the series instead of having her character being transferred to another ship and occasionally coming back on. She had her character killed off, which is a shame. It broke everybody's hearts because she was a hottie. Because actually, what was the second episode of the series? They spoofed. They had an updated version of an original Star Trek episode called "The Naked Time." They call it the Naked Now. And Denise Crosby comes out of her bedroom in her quarters and wearing a sexy midriff-bearing outfit, and she actually had sex with Data. And that thing got a huge laugh. And of course, that was like the moment of the series. That was really technically was the second episode. She's like a killer by this giant oil slick, and of course she has some. As a matter of fact, in the very first episode of Star Trek Next Generation, you had DeForest Kelly, who played Dr. McCoy in the original series, make a cameo in the original episode. Of course, in this series, unlike the original Star Trek series, you only had like one villain make a cameo. Came back for the second episode, and that was the Harry Mudd character. This series, you had like 2 villains that constantly making appearances throughout the 7-year run of the show. First one was, of course, Q, played by John DeLass, and he was terrific in this series. Playing Q, he was really the first villain you met in the series, first new villain, first new entity. He played a character named Q, who was constantly threatening the Enterprise to try and get in good with the crew, and with Captain Picard in particular. It was fascinating with Picard, and they were always pretty good joshing each other throughout the series. And he has several good episodes. As a matter of fact, the marathon I mentioned earlier, Q was in a lot of they had a lot of the Q episodes on here. First, you had the Borg, which is, I believe, was in the third season. You meet the Borg for the first time, and in the end of the third season, you had a cliffhanger. It was the very first cliffhanger in the history of Star Trek: Next Generation, and just about every season after that, they had a cliffhanger. But none of it was as good as the episode "The Best of Both Worlds," which ended the third season and started the fourth season of the show, and where Captain Picard gets kidnapped by the Borg and it gets Borgified, and gets simulated into the Borg, and it was giving them ways to beat the Federation and how to defeat them, and the Borg almost won. I'm not going to give it away for those of you who never saw the episode "The Best of Both Worlds," but that was the best episode of Star Trek: Next Generation, the best one. It's almost but just about as good as the episode "The City on the Edge of Forever" in the original series, but the City on the Edge of Forever just beats out, in my opinion, the Best of Both Worlds episodes from Next Generation. Of course, the other episode with Q was one that had a bit with Robin Hood. It made Picard and the crew look like Robin Hood as merry men. Of course, they had the line in the series where Worf says, "Captain, I protest. I am not a merry man." Because I busted out laughing at that scene. Of course, there was also another episode called, I think it was called Unification, where they brought in Leonard Nimoy as Spock into the series. The only other character from the original series that they brought in, there were two other ones. They brought in Scotty. There's an episode called Relics, which is also a very good episode. And you also see they rebuilt the set of the original Enterprise for a scene when Scotty goes into the holodeck and saw the original Enterprise set. So you originally saw it was redesigned, built up from the original blueprints for the original series, and they had a captain's chair from a diehard Star Trek fan to make that scene work. And also they brought in for the original series Mark Lennon, who played Spock's father Sarek, and he dies. Or his character dies during that episode. And I think he was on it twice. But the second episode is when he physically dies, and of course Picard told Spock that his father had died and shared, his chi, his katra with Picard, and Picard gave this back to Spock when he did a Vulcan mind meld with Spock. So I thought that was also a very good episode as well. Of course, they also brought back Denise Crosby as a time travel thing called Yesterday's Enterprise, and then she went back to the ship, the Enterprise C, and then you had she came back. She had like a daughter. She had sex with a Romulan, either raped or whatever. Just had a straight. Where she actually had sex with a Romulan, and they had like a child together, and it's supposed to be the age of Denise Crosby's character back then, and the way she's supposed to be. So I thought that was also cool to have a scene or a moment like that. Of course, the original Star Trek series only lasted and all the other Star Trek series that came on after this only lasted 7 years. For some reason, that stopped at 7 years. Again, because at least for the Next Generation crew anyway, they want to immediately go into the movies. And because they got tired, because the cast of the original series was getting older, and they weren't making much money for the movies with the original crew, especially the last two films. So they decided to put the Next Generation crew to movies, and they already reviewed the Next Generation movies, so check that video out. So they had the cast ended, and they brought back Q for the last episode. You haven't seen Q for a while, until of course that episode there. But some of the episodes with Q in it was some of the better ones, especially that one. And also another episode where Picard was dying, and they kind of did a spoof of "It's a Wonderful Life," but with Q as Clarence, the Angel with the Wings, and with Clarence the angel, and with Q playing the part of Clarence, which was pretty funny. We go back in time with Picard and how he got his artificial heart, which was also pretty interesting bit they did. And a lot of the episodes, I thought they didn't really like the series at first, but then I warmed up to it because I thought that some of the episodes were modernized some of the bits, and especially the Q episodes were good. Some of it was like sometimes it was like over the top funny. Some of the other episodes where like the cliffhangers were good, or some of the other 2 part episodes were good. The episodes where they unfortunately killed off Denise Crosby's character, that was overly sad because she was the main character, and it was the first time in the history of Star Trek where they killed off a main character. And of course, it was it was the first time because the next on Deep Space Nine they did kill off a main character in Deep Space Nine as well, but this was the first time they killed off a main character in Star Trek. All the other times was some character that made 1 or 2 appearances on the original series, and that's it. Or the joke was anybody wore a red shirt in the original series got killed off. This time was anybody was wearing a yellow shirt got killed off. Of course, he also had appearances by Whoopi Goldberg, playing Guinan. I don't want to leave her out. Who ran the board 10 forward, was giving everybody advice, and she was there occasionally. Fortunately, for most of the second half, of the series, she was not on all that much because we was filming the Sister Act movies. So because of her filming schedule, she wasn't on there as much as, let's say, the last couple of seasons, because of her shooting schedule for the movie she was doing. But originally, she was supposed to have like a beautiful actress or a model doing that character, and when Whoopi Goldberg calls up Gene Roddenberry and says, "I'm interested in doing the part. If you have a part for me, I'm interested in doing maybe like a cameo or 2." And they hired her to play Guinan, and she was one like a semi-regular character. But the series overall was definitely one of the better spin-offs of the show. And like I said, this is the 30th anniversary of Star Trek Next Generation, and I wish the Channel 11 or some regular TV would bring it back on and have a marathon on the 4th of July like they used to. Because to me, it's not like the 4th of July without watching either Star Trek or The Twilight Zone. And I know the camera's pretty shaky because I'm doing it on my cell phone and not my computer, because like I mentioned in my last review, I have problems with my webcam, so I'm doing it on my cell phone instead. But I hope the videos are okay and better, and please comment if you have any suggestions of how I could fix my webcam. Anyway, the Next Generation ended on a very high note, very positive note at the end, even though it was a serious episode called All Good Things, where Picard was the one who's destroyed all of humanity, and he's trying to find some way to stop it. And Q was giving him hints how to stop it, but he can't, help him. Couldn't help him directly, but he would give little hints as to how he could help, because he wanted to somehow he likes Picard. He don't want to see him wiped from existence. But the episode didn't end on a very good note, but the movies, however, were awful. But the show the show is good enough to watch. You'll still watch to this day. It's not a review of Star Trek: Next Generation. Please click on the video. Please rate it. Feel free to comment on. Please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video to your Facebook pages. And you can check out all my reviews and all on my YouTube channel on RowdyC.com. That's all WDY.C.com. The homepage of Rowdy Reviewer, Chris Lee Moore, and please check out all of his content as well. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.